Hey everybody, happy fall. Actually feels like fall, so good October evening to each and every one of you. I am so glad that it has cooled down. Let me tell you, these days are perfect. I love this time of years. I'm definitely like Goldilocks. It's just right, and I love it. So it actually feels, I'm just like, hallelujah, fall, finally. Pleasant afternoons, and the bugs are starting to die, which is always nice. Speaking of bugs, I have this cute little ladybug necklace that I was going to wear with this, and my daughter totally stole it. And I was just running around trying to look for it not 2 seconds ago. Can't find it. It's probably in her room. Hopefully, not the abyss part, but the other part where I can still find it. But goodness gracious. Stole my necklace right before my live show. I'm going to have to totally go diva on her tomorrow. Okay, let's just get right to it because I have got a lot to talk about. All right. And first, I'm going to start off with kind of a bit of a change of heart on my part. Today, a good friend of mine, and I say she's a good friend, we've never met in person, we've corresponded via Facebook. But yeah, I feel like she's a good friend. And some people you meet on Facebook and they do become just like really great friends. Her name is Rue Volley, and she is so talented. I believe she's been on the USA bestseller list, and she is an indie author. So she's very much somebody that I look up to and aspire to be like. And so she received an email from a fan that the fan was annoyed that Rue isn't planning on releasing any more books this year. She's taken some me time, which is perfectly acceptable. And this person, this fan, I'm looking at my notes. Of course, you guys know that by now, but this fan called Rue a entitled indie author who thinks that she's the same caliber as Stephen King, so she can just leave her readers waiting. In her open response to this email, she quite nicely explains that she does not write for her readers. She loves her readers. She appreciates her readers. Every sale she gets just astonishes her and she loves it. But that's not what makes her sit down at the computer. She's a storyteller and she needs to tell these stories. And, reading her response, and that's her story to tell, but it was very therapeutic for her during a time that was really, really hard for her to sit down and tell these stories. And so after seeing her response, it really got me thinking about what I've told people about how often they should release a book. Hi, Glenn. Um, so for years now, ever since I've started giving the Indie Strong workshop at conferences, I've said that the independent standards state that you should publish 4 times a year. And I always get these like, oh, looks. And I understand because that is a lot. I don't even get published 4 times a year most of the time. But there are other ways to do it with like short stories and novellas and stuff like that. But I'm not going to go into that right now because that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is you need to find your process and not worry about the publication date. And that was the realization that I came to today, was that we are so fixated on get it out, get it out, get it out, that the story can, and a lot of times does, get lost. So instead of saying, hey, you should publish 4 to 6 times a year, which are what the industry standards are saying with all the, professional help people on the blogs and the stuff that I look into to help relay that information to you. Here's what I say. Have a focus project. Work on that project every day that you can write. Definitely take that time to clear out your creative mind 1 day, 2 days a week, but as many times as you can get in front of the computer and start writing, write. Okay, work on that focus project. Try to get 1,000 words a day if you're writing a rough draft. If you're doing edits, try to do at least 2 chapters a day. If you continue on with that progress, you do that 1,000 words, edit 2 chapters, then you're going to publish consistently. And I believe that that is more important than quickly. Be consistent. You don't have to be speedy. It helps, but you don't want your story to hurt because of it. And I don't want to go around and tell people, okay, you need to publish 4 times a year, and then have people just stressed out about it, because that takes the fun and the joy out of writing. And that is not something that I want to do. So that really opened my eyes to see her perspective. Because I know that I'm really hard on myself about, let's get it done, let's get it done, let's get it done. So it was really cool to see her perspective and be like, look, I write for me. And I write for me. If I never sold another book, I would still write. It would make me sad, don't get me wrong, but I would still write because I'm a storyteller. Rue is a storyteller. A lot of you all out there are storytellers. So tell your story. Keep consistently working on your story. Keep consistently editing your story, and you will publish in a timely manner. And your diehard readers, they will understand, and they will keep coming back. And you may have to remind them, you may have to keep busy on social media, letting them know that you're also a person, not just a writer, that you're also doing this for the joy of writing and not for the business of writing. That's part of being active on social media. That's part of growing your fan base on social media. It's not saying, buy my books, buy my books, buy my books. It's saying, hey, I'm a person. I hope you like me. And if you like me, maybe you like my books. You know, so that's the goal of social media. It's not to just plaster ads all the time, even though occasional ads do work, but we're not talking about that today. So again, get that focus project. If you're working on your rough draft, try very hard to write 1,000 words a day. It doesn't have to be in one setting. It doesn't have to be in an hour, just during the day. If you get 250 words here, 250 words here, 250 words here, 250 words here, do that, okay? If you're working on edits, then try to do at least 2 chapters a day. You've got 30 chapters, that's 15 days of work. I think my math is right. I don't math very easy or well. Apparently don't talk very well either, but math not my strong suit, but I'm pretty sure that the numbers work there. So keep moving forward, and you will publish at a steady rate, a consistent rate, and your readers will learn to look forward to when your stuff is coming out, and not just saying, you gotta get it done, gotta get it done, gotta get it done, because this really shouldn't be, as much as you see the angsty writer memes about how writing is like, you know, being on a bike in hell with the fire blazing and it's painful. It really shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be that painful. So you're going to get stuck. It's going to be hard sometimes. I'm not saying it's easy, but if you feel like you're in hell every time you sit down to write, maybe pick a different job. You know, find something that makes you happy. Just saying. Okay. So that kind of talking about, you know, 2 chapters editing a day until you get done, that kind of brings me to another question that I had from Glenn in Oklahoma. And he was watching when I talked about my steps to publication. And he was wondering if I could go through those editing steps in a bit more detail. And so that is what I'm going to do now. So my first round of edits are content. And what I do is I have a critique group. There's 2 to 3 of us that meet every single week. Again, this is my job. That's why I do it, okay? So I know not all critique groups can meet once a week. Life gets in the way. I understand that, but we make it a priority to meet every week. And I do my best to have 2 chapters for them. That also keeps my butt in the chair and my hands on the keyboard. Okay, so what they do, what my critique group does, is they read through what is basically the rough draft. Very seldom do I have I gone through it before they get to it. I used to be like really anal about getting through it before they do, because I didn't want them to see all my errors and stuff. And I got past that really quickly, because nobody's perfect and they're there to help me become a better writer. And so, anywho, so they read through the rough draft. Their job is to find holes in my plot, things that don't make sense. I'm trying not to sneeze. I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. Anybody knows me knows I've got to sneeze at least 3 times in a row. It's my thing. At least 3 times. My record, I believe, is 17 times in a row. Let's hope that doesn't happen on air, because, yeah, nobody wants to listen to me sneeze. Anyway, okay, back to my critique group. Their job is to look for holes in the plot, things that are confusing, logistics. Let's say I have 2 people talking in a room, but person A has never entered the room. So how can they be having this conversation? Or I have somebody have a big reveal, but how do they know this reveal? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, it's too convenient because you don't want a convenient ending. And so, so that's what my critique group does. If they find a typo or extra words, they definitely fix those for me, but that is not their goal. Their goal is to read the story for the content, make sure that it makes sense, make sure there's no holes, make sure that all those little details that I have in my brain for my story have made it to the page, because doesn't always happen. Okay, so that is content. And like I said, the easiest way to do that is find a critique group, get with them often, and your groups, whether it's your writing group or your critique group, they should be a supportive bunch. If they are telling you that you're writing crap, you need to find a different group. That is not the group for you. You need to be around people that will lift you up. They will help you be the best writer that you can be. If you leave a group feeling like you have just been beat down and you don't even want to write anymore, that's the wrong group. Please find a different group. Okay, so that brings us to my second round of edits, which is what I call the read through. And I literally sit here in front of the computer because I'm trying to become less paper dependent, and I read it out loud. There are things that will read it for you. I believe Word has a function that will read it for you. The point of doing a read through is, again, you're using a different part of your brain when you're reading through it, so you can find additional errors that maybe your critique group did not find, as far as typos, missed words, duplicated words, stuff like that. It can also tell you when or if your dialogue is choppy. People love to read dialogue. It has been proven. They like short paragraphs and lots of dialogue. It moves the story along. If your dialogue is choppy, or if it's, I don't want to say boring, but if it's not moving the story, if it's defeating the pace of the story, then you need to fix it. And that's what happens during the read through. And you'll be amazed at how you notice it. You notice, oh, this is dragging. I've got to change this up a little bit. Okay, so that's what the read through does. Yeah, awkward sentences. Read throughs are great for awkward sentences if your critique group didn't find them. Definitely, that is part of it too. So that brings me to round 3, which are edits that should be done by a copy editor. Now, the copy editor, they find grammatical errors. They are your grammar gurus. Okay, they are looking at punctuation. They are looking at sentence structure, whether a sentence is a run-on or a fragment. They're also looking for those typos, those extra words. My editor stays very busy deleting the extra justs and that's that I have in my manuscripts. Those are my crutch words, apparently. Right now, I use too many justs and that's and so's. A lot of my characters start their sentences with so because I start my sentences with so. So she has to take those out when they're not needed. And she's always told me, and I need to be better about this, but if I can read the sentence without the that or the just and it still makes sense, it doesn't need to be there. It needs to be cut. So I try to remember to do that, but I'm really kind of bad about just relying on her to do it for me. So they should absolutely pinpoint any parts that are confusing to them, but their main focus is to tidy up this manuscript to make it as perfect as it can be before it goes to publication. Okay, so that brings us to our 4th round of edits. And these are from our beta readers. And these are the final eyes that you're going to see on your publication before you print it out, put it out to the masses. Even highly qualified copy editors make mistakes. They miss things. Like I told you, our brains are phenomenal. The brain will fix it for you, and you'll see on the page what it's supposed to be, even if it's not correct. And so beta readers, as those final readers, they do not have to be professional proof readers, which is basically what they're doing. They're proofreading. They don't have to be professionals. In fact, sometimes it's better if they're not, because you can see a lot more if you're reading casual than if you're reading for your job. Your brain is in a different frame of mind when you're just casually reading to if you're reading for a job. Okay, so casual beta readers are great. I have 2 that I consider to just be outstanding beta readers that I asked to read every single time. And they, to me, are more like proofreaders. And then I always get a fan, always get somebody that's either on my street team, or I put a call out on the interwebs and say, hey, look, I need a beta reader, and just somebody to casually read it. And then they mark up in the book, because I send them a hard copy, I send them a copy just like this, except it says proof on it. And I tell them to mark it up, and I give them little tabs so that I know where the marks are. And then when they're done, I send them a free book and probably a coffee mug until I run out. And so that's me saying, thank you for your time, and I really appreciate your effort. So their beta readers are basically proofreaders. And I also try to beta read it too, but again, my brain is going to fix those mistakes, because my brain knows what's supposed to be there. Isn't that brains cool? Brains are so cool. Okay. So beta readers, though, your beta editor should not be making any major plot changes at this point. That it is way past time for plot changes. But if there's a point that confuses them, then they need to let you know. And if you have, I like to have 3 to 4. I know people who send out a lot more betas than that. And a lot of them are doing that so they can get reviews on the first day. But the beta edits that I actually take into consideration what they have to say, and that's what I'm talking about now. Not just ARCs, which are advanced reader copies. I'm talking about betas, which are reading it and proofreading it for me. If all of them come back with confusion in the same spot, then I'm going to need to take a really close look at that and make sure that it's makes sense. Geez, brain, come on. Didn't I just give the brain a compliment, and there it's making me skip words? Geez, brains. Okay, so Glenn and I were also, this brings me to question 2, because Glenn and I, we had a very good talk about editors. And I wanted to share some of that information that I shared with him with you. Okay, so copy editors. I have stated numerous times that there are 2 things that you absolutely need to pay for if you're publishing, and that is copy editors and professional graphic designers. And I stand by that 110%. So the question is, how do you go about getting a good copy editor? I get this question a lot, and I'm always kind of hesitant to answer it, but I'm going to do the best that I can right now. First and foremost, talk to other authors, books that you've read. If you've read another author's book and you enjoyed it and you thought that the copy editor did a great job, talk to that author and say, hey, who did you hire, because I'm looking for somebody? Then you contact that person and you ask them for a sample. And usually it's 10 pages on your manuscript of what they would do. Okay, there's a reason for this sample, and it's very important. You need to make sure that your copy editor understands your voice. I had a book that came out a couple of years ago, and I was in a hurry to get it out. I felt behind, I was feeling pressure, I was feeling stress, I hadn't released anything, and I was in a hurry to find a copy editor. My normal copy editors and even my normal beta readers, it seemed like everybody was having surgery that summer. And so, of course, they couldn't put that on their plate. And I totally understood. I mean, I would never ask somebody to put my book ahead of their medical needs. And I wanted them all to be well anyway, because I considered them my friends. So anyway, I had to hire somebody that I had never used before. And I did take word of mouth that they were good. And I wouldn't say that they weren't good, but I would say that this person did not understand my voice. And so the entire time I was copying, and I didn't ask for a sample, so I didn't know this beforehand. So I was on the hook for paying her. Okay, so the entire time I'm copy editing, I'm just fuming, because instead of fixing my words, this editor was changing my words. She was changing what I wrote. She was changing my story. And so I really had to rely very heavily on my beta readers, who thankfully could. And again, Jennifer and Lynn, you guys are awesome, and I thank you so much. So shout out to those 2, because I didn't know if my stuff was correct, because the copy editor I'd hired changed everything so drastically that she didn't fix what I wrote. She just wrote it the way that she would have written the story had it been her. So, and we just came from, and again, I'm not saying she's a bad copy editor. I'm saying that we came from 2 different schools of storytelling. And mine was is probably more relaxed than hers. I think she comes from more of a technical view, and that's why you need that sample. So get your 10-page sample. If you don't like what they did, if that copy editor does not understand your voice, then send them a very nice email saying, thank you, but no thank you. I really appreciate your time on my 10 pages, but I'm going to go someplace else. Like I said, don't wait till the last minute and don't rush to get an editor like I did. Do your research, take your time, make sure it's the right person. Now, if you get those 10 pages back and you're like, oh, this is great, this person is just what I need, they understand me, that is also awesome. So at this point, you would send them an email saying, I love your work, you did a fantastic job, what's your rate? They're probably going to come back with a rate that's either per word or per page. This varies depending on different copy editors. Some have a flat fee, but most of them have either a per page or a per word rate. They're going to come back and they're going to tell you that. Now, that might be in your budget. If it's not in your budget, don't panic yet. What you want to do is you want to email them back and say, hey, look, I really do love you and I really want to work with you, but I cannot afford that. Would you be able to do it for, and give them a reasonable offer. Remember, copy editing is hard, tedious work, and they deserve to be paid for doing that hard, tedious work. And the better the work they do on your manuscript, the better you look, in all honesty. So you want to give them a reasonable rate. Don't just undercut them to undercut them. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about working within your budget in order to get the book out and not bankrupt yourself. If they can't do it, then say, hey, you know what? Thank you so much for your time, but I have to find somebody who can work in these parameters. They might surprise you and be like, you know what? I would love to do your book for that much. And then maybe you can negotiate for the next book. So, however, you need to have a good working relationship with your cover editor, because that is exactly what it is. It's a relationship. And editors, speaking to you right now, because I know there's a few of you that watch, please just keep in mind that as independent authors, we cannot afford thousands of dollars for copy editing. I'm not saying your time's not worth it. I'm not saying that you're not worth it. I'm saying that the bottom line truth is that most independent authors cannot spend $3,000 to $5,000 on a copy edit, because we'll not make that back unless we're one of the exceptions. Okay, so just keep that in mind as an editor. Keep that in mind as an author. It should be a good working relationship. If somebody walks away or somebody does this job and they're bitter about how much they're getting paid, or they're bitter about how much they're paying out, it's not going to be a good relationship. So make sure you guys can find common ground that everybody is good with, not just okay with, but good with, so that you have a good editor. And I just love it when I have two really great editors, and one is kind of like all business, and the other one, every once in a while, she writes like a little comment about the story and how it either like she related to it, or it made her laugh out loud, or she was surprised. And I live for those moments. So editors, copy editors, put those little tidbits in there, because we really like them. And when we're going through the trenches and changing all those commas, because I'm horrible at commas, and taking out all those justs and that's, it's really cool to see when you've really related to something or love something or along those lines. Okay, so that brings us to, oh gosh, okay. That green, I'm looking at the time and I'm thinking, oh, do I have time? I do. I'm going to have time. We're going to make time. Okay, so last week, Katherine Hellstrom from Oklahoma mentioned that she has been a pantser all her life and is transitioning or trying really hard to be a plotter. So I wanted to give her some tips on how to go about that. So first and foremost, if you don't know the terms, a pantser is somebody who sits down and starts writing. They don't really have a plan. They've got the story in their head, but they're just writing by the seat of their pants. A plotter is somebody who plots it out, has an outline. I am a plotter. My mom, who writes middle grade adventure fairy tales, she's a pantser. I don't know how she keeps it all straight. It is beyond my comprehension how she does it, but she does it, and she writes really, really good books. And so hopefully her new one will be out next year, early next year. So shameful mom plug right there. Kathy Collar, look her up. Okay, so anyway, she's a pantser. I'm a plotter. I strongly, strongly, strongly urge you to do your best to become a plotter. Outline that book. And when I say outline, I know a lot of people get kind of like, oh, I don't want to do the Roman numerals and the fancy indents. You don't have to. This isn't school. Nobody's grading you on it. It doesn't have to be, Encyclopedia Britannica worthy. It just has to be a guide for you on where your story is going to go. Because let me tell you, for a lot of people, the beginning is easy, the ending is easy. We almost always know how it's going to begin. I mean, we got to find our hook. That's a totally different thing. We got to find our hook, but we almost always know where it's going to begin and where it's going to end. But then we get in that middle, and that's where people get lost. It's called the middle muddles for a reason, because once you get in that middle, you get muddled down in all the words, and you're either rushing to get to the end or you just stop. So that is why it's really important to have a guideline on where you're going to go when you get to the middle. And it wasn't until I started to outline that I actually finished a novel, because I would get to the middle, I'd get muddled down, and I would stop. It was too much work at that point. It wasn't fun anymore trying to figure out what was going to happen in the middle. So when I sat down to write Quail Crossings, I was like, you know what? I need to know what's going to happen in the middle of this book so I can get from A to C and know what B is. So that's when I started to outline, and it really helped. Now, you can do the, sorry, I'm trying to scroll down on my little notes here. You can scroll down, see, brain. I said it was great, and now it's gonna make me look like a fool here on Facebook Live. Okay, so you can write down a typical outline if you want to, or you can just write a simple synopsis. Now, I know all you writers are like, oh no, not the S word. Yeah. Let me tell you, a synopsis is a lot easier to write before you've written the story. Okay, because you're getting at all those important things, and there's no like, it only needs to be 1 page, single space. No, you can write as long of a synopsis as you want to in order for it to be a guideline. What I like to do is when I first started, I had a cork board and index cards, and for every character in Quail Crossings, I had a different color for them. So like Dubby was pink, and I had the cork board into sections, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and then I would put what happened to each character in that chapter. Just like a small little tidbit, Dubby finds the doll. Bill finds James. James invites Bill to come live at Quail Crossings, stuff like that. Okay, so very, very simple. And I did that through how many chapters I thought there were going to be until I got to the end, because I knew where I wanted the climax to be. So I had to build it up to there, and then that way I knew where I was going. And that is when I finally finished a book. Okay, so now I do all that on Scrivener, and I got my phone out here. I know this is very technical. So this is one of my outlines. Let's see, can you see that? Whoop. Okay, so these are index cards on a virtual corkboard. And the reason that I do that now is because I want my outlines with me wherever I go. And let's just say a corkboard is not really that great cargo. So now I do it on Scrivener. That is the only function of Scrivener that I use. I don't really recommend it, but I know a lot of people who love it. To me, it's productive procrastination, but that's a debate for another time. So anyway, so that's what I do. I do my outlines. And so you can do the detailed, you can do the virtual, but here's the big reason the outlines are nice. They keep you on track when you get interrupted, especially if you get interrupted a lot by kids and husbands. Yeah, it happens. And so I get interrupted. I have a 1-year-old. He does not understand work ethic. And so I have to stop and see where I'm at. So when I come back, I know exactly where I'm at because I have an outline. Now, these outlines, they also let you know how far you've gone. So when you get in that muddled middle, you can be like, hey, I started here, but now I'm all the way here, and I only have to get to here. So look how far that I've gone. So that's a good way. And me, I don't know if you noticed or not, but I keep marking on those dones. You saw it marked done. That is like me checking off a to-do list. I get pretty much high off of clicking done on those. It is better than Smarty Dust. Y'all know I love Smarties. You see the big Smarty thing in the back there? Yeah. I've been chomping on those a little bit. Okay, that's probably why my brain is rebelling. So anyway, it's a nice visualization to see how hard you've been working. And here's the great part. If you decide to take a different road than what's on that outline, that's fine. That's great. Do it. Go with the story. You are not held hostage by your outline. It is suggestions on where you might go. It is not set in concrete. You can deviate from it. Now you might need to write down where you're going to go from there, but it's all good. If your story is flowing to the point where it's kind of taken on a mind of its own, you may not need to write anything down at all. So that's what happened with Return to Quilt Crossings. I had a whole different outline, and I mean, it went bloop, and I was like, okay, this is the way we're going. I still got to my destination. I just took a different route, and that was fine. And I did need the map, but it was kind of nice to have that map in my glove box in case I did need it. You know what I mean? All right. Nina says that she's mostly a pantser, in part because the idea of an outline petrifies her. Yeah, I get that. It does. When you hear outline, school days, English, Comp 1 and Comp 2 come to mind, and you think research paper. And nothing's fun about a research paper unless you write nonfiction. No judgment here. But nothing's really all that great about, wanting to sit down and write. But I'm not saying that you have to be extra detailed. I'm just saying give yourself a guide. So when you get interrupted, or if you only have like small parts of the day to write because you have that day job, you have those people to take care of, whether it be your littles or your biggies, you've got a life beyond writing. Even professional writers have a life beyond writing. So you have to know where you're at, and it's just a guide. It's just a guide. She says she does a little for for her nonfiction, for her fiction and her nonfiction. So I'm just saying, do a little bit more. And nobody's grading it. So, and if you go off of it, that's fine. So don't be afraid. And I think it will change the way that you write. Okay, we've gone to 32 minutes already, and I had another question, but I'm going to skip that until next time. We're going to do the Why I Write real quickly because it starts tomorrow, and that is Witch of Apple Hill. And it is an ebook. Try not to get the glare of the computer there. Isn't that a great cover? My sister Brandy Walker does all of my covers. She's so talented. I'm so lucky. And yes, I pay her. So it's not just free family thing. I pay her what she's worth because that's a lot of work. And I love what she does. And so why I write stories like Witch on Apple Hill. Okay, so basically Witch on Apple Hill is about this witch, and she has always lived on Apple Hill, even before the town came. And the town just decided that since the railroad was going to go through there, they were going to build a town there. And they kind of just disrupted her whole peaceful planet of living. And so every 40 years, she doesn't really age, but every 40 years, she has to pretend that she's retiring and going someplace else. And she wreaks havoc before she leaves. So we're coming up on the second part of her 40 years, and she's about to wreak havoc on the town of Apple Hill, but it turns out that somebody has moved to town, and her little curses, her little fun stuff, doesn't work on him. So I have to see where that goes. So she likes to play with the townspeople like they're her puppets. So a lot of people always ask me, why do you write that stuff? I mean, it's so far from Quilt Crossings. And let me tell you, it's because I am fascinated by the paranormal. I don't necessarily want to go spend the night in a haunted house. I always joke that the Crescent Hotel, I'm not going to get a room there because I like to sleep. And if I got a room at the Crescent Hotel, which is like the most haunted hotel in America, it's in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, which is a place that I go and have a writing retreat just about every year. Wasn't able to do that this year, but it's a place I go almost every year. But I don't want to sleep and I always visit the Crescent Hotel, but I don't want to sleep there. Because even if there's not a single ghost in that hotel, my brain is going to totally tell me that there's a ghost in that room, and I'm not going to sleep at all, and I'm going to hear things, I'm going to see things, I'm going to get scared, and I'm not going to like it at all. So, but I'm fascinated by it. I'm totally fascinated. I'm fascinated by the stories. I go on ghost tours, not because I think I'm going to see a ghost, but because of the stories. And so that is why I write paranormal romance and why I write these magical realisms, which of Apple Hill would be. I love playing in that world. Well, hello, Liz. You're beautiful too. I love living in that world of the what if. And I don't know. I mean, I have friends. They believe, and maybe I believe in some of it too, but it's fun. It's fun to deviate from the world of Quail Crossings or even the world of Heart Valley, the contemporary setting, the stuff that you know to be true, and go into this world of magic and play. And my mom, like I said, she writes middle grade adventure fairy tales. So she likes to play in Fae. So, I mean, I come by it honestly, and I'm really curious about it. In fact, it's over by my armchair, but I got this new book about spooky places, the spookiest places in the world. And all Sunday, that's all I was doing was just looking at that book. And I mean, it's a chunker, it's a doorstop kind of a book, but I'm just fascinated by it. So being fascinated by something, I like to write about it too. And I like to have fun with it. I'm never going to be the person that writes the ultra gory stuff. I don't want to read that, so I'm not going to write that. But I'm definitely deviating a little bit from just writing clean and wholesome, which are what, Heart Valley and Quail Crossings are. They're basically clean and wholesome. Any kind of relationships are implied, or any kind of sexual relationships are implied, but they're very true to good people living good lives. Okay, so it is so much fun for me to go over to the Anna's Legacy blog, and you'll be able to read this for free over at Anna's Legacy starting tomorrow. Give me a little bit of time to get it up because I'm losing my voice. Give me a little bit of time to give it up because I don't think I'm going to get that done tonight, but it will be posted tomorrow, and I will definitely post on my Facebook. And the reason that I write it is because it's fun. So don't take it too seriously when I write about angels or demons or witches or, I don't know, the Loch Ness Monster, maybe one day, I don't know, Bigfoot, who knows? It's just fun. And I love writing fiction, and I love deviating from reality and living in my own little world in my head because I am a storyteller. That's what I do. Okay, that is all the time. I keep getting longer and longer on these things, and I can't believe I had like 2 questions I didn't even get to. So Tana, I will get to your question next time about the Ask Me Anythings, and I lost the other one. Pen names, but I didn't write down who said that, so I need to do that anyway. So pen names, we'll definitely talk about that one next time. Thank you guys so much for watching. It really means a lot to me. The support really means a lot to me. Knowing you're out there, and and I hope I'm helping. I hope that I give you a little tidbit of information weekly that helps get you through your week. It helps you to keep writing and keep enjoying this job that is storytelling, because yes, it's a job, but it's a job of storytelling, and we get to do it. Okay, so if you have a question for me for next week, please either PM me here on my Facebook page or email me at jennifermcmurrian@gmail.com. You can see my name up there in the corner so you can spell it right. So it doesn't get lost in cyberspace. And I hope you guys have a fabulous fall filling week. And I hope to see you next week. Happy writing. Bye, guys.